Hello, everyone. My name is Oddimus Prime, and I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful, wonderful, amazing co-host, the fantastic Primetime Moff. And whether you're watching us or indeed listening to us, we welcome you to our weekly show, Transformers 84 to 24, 40 years of rolling out. A show that in the 40th year of the Transformers, we look back and delve into the vast history of the brand. If you're new to the show, we'll be covering each year of the franchise its own weekly episode with special episodes throughout the year. So please sit back, relax, subscribe, and turn on your notifications and ensure you do not miss anything in this incredible journey. Hey Moff, how you doing?
I'm very well, and I am very excited about talking about 1996.
It's
I am,
exciting.
or as I should say, yes. I don't do the accent, but yeah. Oh,
No.
I'm so excited.
Cheers. Um, so yes, let's not beat around the bush. G2 has ended, G1 has ended. It is now the rise of the beasts. So 1980,
Oh, wait, wait a minute, wait a minute.
wait, sorry.
Beast Wars is G1. No,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
kidding.
monkey not truck. So 1996 was, of course, the first year of Beast Wars. A little bit of fun information if you don't know it already, but basically Hasbro spent a couple of years messing around with G2, and the sales were plummeting, and they didn't really know what to do with the brand, but they knew that it needed some reinvigoration. So basically, they just recently had ended up purchasing another toy company by the name of Kenner, who you may remember of making Mask figures and the Star Wars figures and all of that stuff that we played with when we were kids. But they handed off Beast Wars to Kenner. Even though it's all part of the same company, the Kenner sort of arm was separate. So they basically got the Transformers idea and franchise and got to roll with it. No pun intended. Um,
Mhm.
so rather than going for what was robots in disguise and the trucks and the guns and the tanks and the vehicle modes and the other weirdness that came along, they instead went for animals. And they completely changed everything about the franchise. They uh, uh, took realistic looking animal alt modes with robotic bodies, and yeah, that was that. Um, what do you think of Beast Wars, Mr. Moff?
So I'll give you my first original impression, right? Because I do love it now. I do love it now. I very much love it now. But I remember seeing it on the shelves and not being impressed and being like, this is not. And I've said this. There'll be other points of the franchise I feel the same, where it's this is not what I want. I want, what is now G1. So at the very beginning, I didn't have an attraction to it. I didn't want to watch the show. I didn't jump on the figures at the very beginning and didn't think it was going to be a toy line that I could enjoy. It's 96, I was 16 years old. I wasn't really picking up toys. It wasn't probably until, we're going to we'll talk about 97 next week, but 97 is when I picked it up. But oh boy, was I wrong. The show is outstanding, and the toys are so much fun. And I'm looking forward to delving right into it this week.
Um, yeah, I remember first seeing him in the shops and thinking that it wasn't something I was really going to get into. Um, but they were Transformers, but it was not Transformers. They looked kind of funny. The whole we'll talk about it more when we get into the toys, but the whole sort of idea of the transform with the mutant mask and all of that was a big thing in the first season. I don't massively remember seeing a lot of it when it first came out. I know that I actually ended up working in a toy shop a little bit after Beast Wars came out, around the time that like Magnaboss and Tripredacus came out. Because I remember us getting them in, and that's when I got Primal and Megatron and those two and other bits and bobs. But when they first came out, I don't remember actually being too fast. But yeah, within a couple of years, I was well hooked. Bearing in mind also that when they came out in '96, I was just finishing off my A levels and had other things going on in my life and wasn't particularly interested in Transformers at that point, that exact moment in time. But that soon disappeared. Um, yeah, so anything else to say about them at this point? Else have we got going on this year? We've got a bot-con. We'll get back to that later, but we're not really going to talk too much about that. But there is an exclusive bot, which we'll get to. One interesting thing that I'm just going to remember. When Beast Wars first started, the idea was that this was a future iteration of Transformers and a future iteration of the Autobots and Decepticons have become the Predacons and the Maximals. And Optimus Primal and Megatron were Optimus Prime and Megatron. In the first series of the toy line, that was the intention. Up until obviously the cartoon premiered, which is a wee bit after the toys arrived. I can't remember what the actual sort of gap between the two is, and I don't think we've jotted it down anyway, but that's fine. So yeah, the Bat Optimus Prime and the original first Optimus Primal originally were Optimus Prime. It wasn't until we got to the second series and when the cartoon had kicked off that the Beast Wars lore, the one that we all know and love, became a thing. Anything else you have on?
No, again, we've talked about this in the last 2 or 3 weeks, where we know that there's no point now up till present day where there's not been a Prime or a Megatron, a year without a Prime or a Megatron. But it is interesting that in this year there's two versions of both of them, as you say. You've got your what we come to love as Primal and Megatron and the Gorilla and the T-Rex. But those first two toys, the Bat and the Crocodile, just it's almost like if you were to tell somebody now without them knowing about it, they wouldn't believe you, because it's just like, what? Why? Why is these kind of two standalone figures that don't really line into anything? It doesn't really make sense, but it is just an interesting kind of tidbit of the franchise that it starts with that, and then obviously moves on to the Barney dinosaur. Like in the 90s, a purple dinosaur. Like, really? And again, I think that was my kind of feeling when I saw it. I was like, a purple dinosaur? I didn't really connect. This is one very much that I didn't connect until I saw the show. And the show didn't appeal to me with the mainframe, is that right? The company that
Mainframe,
made
yeah, yeah.
it didn't appeal to me the way it looked. And it wasn't until we had a snow day where I always joke about this. Our village get cut off. Literally nobody could get in or out of the village. And back then you didn't have the choice of channels and streaming and YouTube and Netflix to watch things. So I put on, and there was an episode of Beast Wars. I can't remember which one it was. And I watched it and went, that was really good. I love the voice acting, and I think the voice acting in it is supreme. It absolutely carried the show for me from over the graphics of it. I am super excited for TFN this year to meet David Kay. I just think he's absolutely his voice work in it is just outstanding. And it was then I was more excited to hunt down when it got to the point where, because the same as G1, you didn't get to see everything. It wasn't easy to get access to every
No.
episode. I was more excited to try and hunt down the episodes I was missing of Beast Wars than I think I ever had been with G1, because it felt like story. Like there was proper story in it, and it gets, we'll get through the next few years. We'll talk about some of the really hard hitting episodes that I think stand up to this day for storytelling.
Yeah.
There are goofy bits. There are goofy bits that are just fun. And it just, I think the core cast, instead of like all of our cartoons we grew up with were adverts for toys, where it was like, this week let's introduce Bob the gorilla, and then next week let's introduce Ted flying saucer, and it just felt like every week they're trying to introduce something. Beast Wars didn't feel like that. Characters did obviously get introduced, but there was far more toys. If you think about it, the toy line had far more toys than there was characters in the show.
Hmm.
They didn't really do the same as your He-Mans and your original Transformers or G.I. Joe, where it's like, let's just add them in. It built the characters. It built the connections between them. You could see real growth in the characters. Dinobot will always be that perfect character of what a story arc he had from the very
Yeah.
beginning. But you see that in Rat Trap, you see it in Rhinox, you see all of them develop. So yeah, it was a very different feel, but I think it's good that it was so different.
Mm.
It set a stall that going forward, the cartoon never had to be lavished to G1. It could start to do things slightly different. A lot of them have been a lot more G1-ish than Beast Wars by miles, but well, Beast Wars has its G1 moment, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just the storytelling, the characters. Oh,
Yeah, I have a lot of time for the Beast Wars cartoon. I don't think like you. I don't think I fell in love with it immediately. I remember watching the first couple of episodes and then thinking meh, and then going back to it much later. But yeah, I think the fact that there was an ongoing narrative and they set up a perfect mechanism right on the first episode to have a core team for each side of a few characters, so those characters could be developed and have proper tangible characters and characterizations
mm,
within the show. Whereas with G1, you had what 15 Autobots and a smattering of Decepticons that depended on what frame it was, there was multiple Seekers or not multiple Seekers,
mm.
and some of them barely had characters. And then,
Yeah.
as you say, every other episode was, oh look, it's Beachcomber, and here's Cosmos, and here's the Dinobots, and it sort of went like that. Beast Wars set up a mechanism for that immediately so that they could introduce new characters really easily with the
Yes,
status
yeah, yeah.
pods.
Very
Um,
clever, actually,
I
forward thinking.
it was amazing because it meant that even though you had this core group of characters, they could expand them out, not infinitely, but as the lines progressed, you had a reason for these new characters arriving. Especially with the conceit of the show that they've traveled back in time and they're not going to travel back in time and suddenly meet a whole bunch of new Maximals on the planet, or no more are just going to come suddenly through a time portal or something. They established that nicely straight on, and also the fact that the characters, again, in the show, you have your character tropes. You have your hot-headed, young, brash, good guy character who's your Bumblebee or your Hot Rod in Cheetor, and
Mm-hmm.
you had your sort of Ironhidey, Ratchet kind of hybrid in Rhinox, and obviously Primal is Prime and whatever else. Um, but yeah, it just so much was crammed in character wise and story wise into those first few episodes. Yeah, even though I didn't get hooked immediately, when I went back to it, I was like, "Oh, this is actually awesome." Yes, the animation takes a little bit of getting used to if you go back to it now, but at the time that was pretty much cutting edge stuff. Mainframe had just come off the back of Reboot, which was blindingly the most cutting edge cartoon out at the same time at that time. I mean, bearing in mind that Reboot came out around about the same time that like X-Men the animated show and all the Marvel shows of the 90s and stuff like that, when they were coming out, you had Reboot that was this computer generated madness that looked absolutely amazing. It doesn't hold up.
Mm-hmm.
Storyline maybe, but animation wise, it looks ropey to say the least. It's bad cutscenes from
Yeah.
video games at best. But hey,
I just last year rewatched all of Beast Wars. There was a YouTube channel that's been pulled, which is a shame. I'm hoping it reappears at some point, and I'm going to make sure I rip the copies. But they had a 4K upscaled version of Beast Wars, and it
nice.
looked fantastic. The vast majority of the Beast Wars I first watched were on dodgy Korean VCDs, that I got when the series completed. I managed to get these VCDs with them all and went back and watched them all. I then bought the American DVDs, and they're better, but the 4K ones that were on YouTube were gorgeous. Like that was the way it should have looked, in the 90s, and it was a joy to go back and rewatch it. And I kick myself that I didn't sit and just rip copies of them from that. So as soon as they appear again, and these things go back up, it will. But if we talk about I don't want to talk about, or I think it's wrong to talk about every single episode or bit. So
Oh
we'll talk
god, yeah.
about certain bits throughout the stories. But that first episode, the bits that were really clever were how they come up with a story so that they had to use their alt modes.
Mhm. Yes.
Never something that was really a big thing in the G1. It was just like it's how you transport from one place to another. It doesn't really do anything else. So that was clever. I think the Dinobot starting off at the very beginning of Dinobot trying to take over for Megatron, then nope, I'll take over for Optimus, but Optimus doing the Optimus type thing and not
Mm.
letting him. It was so well. It started off so well and had a real good right. Okay, we're going to set our solid of what we're going to create these characters, and I think that when you then watch it back, knowing the full story, it's even more powerful seeing the kind of Dinobot saga.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. As I said before, the characters in it are really good, really well defined, really fleshed out. And you've got Optimus Primal, who's named after Optimus Prime, but is like a little unconfident in his leadership, but also is honest and noble and straight-laced, but very caring. He cares about the people under his command. Yeah, it was a really, really awesome take on Optimus. Not that I'm biased. Um, but again, all the other characters, I found Rat Trap really, really annoying to start off with because that's kind of the character he is. He is, for lack of a better analogy, the wheelie of Beast Wars, to the point that he does actually get wheels um, in one of his alt modes later. But
Oh, I can't wait to talk about them.
oh yeah, that's a whole nother story. But it was brilliant. But yeah, we won't talk about every episode because otherwise we could be here for hours, and we haven't even touched on the toys.
No.
Shall we touch on the toys?
Yes, please.
Okay, right. Now this bit will probably be edited out in the audio version because I had to remember to edit this bit out in the audio version for the last episode. But this is where I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this will work. If it doesn't work, well,
I'm sure you'll appear. Yep, it does. Yep.
hey, Bonza. Okay, well, we'll keep that going. Right, so hopefully I can still skip between these. But you had various classes of figure. So I think they had classes in previous, but because there's no sublines, this is just all Beast Wars. You didn't have in G2, like in the last year of G2, you had about 5 different sublines within Transformers for the different classes and everything else. But this is just different size classes within the one theme. So you have your basic class. Now, the really fun thing about these figures was not only do they look pretty awesome in beast mode, they also look pretty awesome in robot mode. And it's the first
Mhm.
time that you had Transformers that were really quite posable. They were like action figures.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
two,
I've got two on my desk just now just because of that, because thinking
yeah,
actually as we're prepping for this, and it's impressive.
yeah, they're really posable. They have ball joints for the most part. You can get fairly decent poses out of them. And also in this particular class, they had like an automorph feature.
Yeah, yeah.
So pretty much all of them, you pull the tail or whatever, and the shell sort of split apart, and the robot was inside, and you sort of unfold his legs or what have you, to have your figure. And then they're opposable and fun. The downside to that is obviously they're very very shell formery. They basically had their alt modes on their backs for the most part. Some of them, like Rat Trap, his mouse head sort of pulls forwards, but you still have his mouse arms all sort of sticking out the
Yeah.
side like this. Jazz hands. just feet. But yeah, they are what they are, but they're super fun, super posable, and yeah, out of this first range, two of them made it to the cartoon, Rat Trap and Pterosaur. All of the rest, even in later versions of the later seasons of the cartoon, none of them appeared. Um, I think the only one I had at the time was Snapper, maybe. I
I
think.
grabbed all these. I can't remember which one was first. I think Razor Beast was the first one I picked up, and I just thought these are really fun, and they were dirt cheap. I picked them up in '97 when I went to uni, and they were dirt cheap. And I just thought these are great fun. Terror Shore is the highlight for me personally. I think the colorings on it, the green on the back, the eye, the yellow eye, it's a beautiful looking figure. And then Insecticon was when I first got, I'm sure, as I say, I'm sure it was Razor Beast, who has a wig gun.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why I actually it appealed to me. He had a wig. I
yeah.
had hair back then, mind you. But Insecticon was the one that I coveted. It was the one I actually hunted for to get because I loved the Insecticons, and it's again a great wee figure. And as you say, the posability on them,
Yeah.
I was blown away. But they felt like action figures, as you said, very much so. Proper posability, proper kind of different to what I was expecting. So yeah, basic class of a cracking wee set of figures.
You know what's funny about this is a few years ago when Spock first became a thing, I was searching Transformers lots on there, and I found this person selling a boatload of Beast Wars, and I bought them off them for £20, which was ridiculous. But it was pretty much Series One, Series Two, nearly the whole lot of figures, so many figures. And I felt bad. So when I went to pick them up, I actually gave them 50 quid because I was like, you have way undersold this. Here, have some more money because I'm going to keep the ones I want and I'm going to sell the other ones and I'm going to make more money than so just have some more money. And she was so grateful, which was nice. Anyway, that's by the by. But that was the first time I got a hold of a lot of these figures. And it's just occurred to me after you saying about the wig gun on Razor Beast that I've never had or held a Razor Beast. So that's one for my talking robots this week. I now
I
want to
I
play with a wig gun.
I have a Razor Beast because I have a Razor Beast out in my display because I've got a real affection for it because it was my first one. But the triple takeover talk about man and pig, and that is essentially what Razor Beast is man and pig, and it just every time I hear it, it makes me smile. So
Nice.
my enjoyment of the figure from it originally being what it was, has been but they're all fantastic figures. Um, I didn't really do the rest of the figures, but I got all the basic class because they were cheap for a uni student to pick up some cheap toys. I was a very happy chappy getting these.
Yes, yes, definitely. So one thing we'll just talk about in a second, or we'll talk about before moving on to the next slide. So the next, the other thing they did with as a gimmick, for the deluxe and ultras and megas or whatever they are, is they all had a mutant mode, which was basically all of the robot modes had an alternate head, which was either in some cases the head round the other way, or a mask that flips up or opens up, which was weird. I'm gonna go with weird.
Not, yeah, not really necessary. Like it wasn't really needed.
Yeah, yeah. I think
You'd almost expect that as a season two. Can I let's throw something slightly different on a gimmick?
yeah.
But
I think it only
uh,
lasted this wave.
yeah,
I think I stuck my primal away. I didn't think to get a figure out. Not that I had many. Anyway, let's have a look at the next slide. And here we have the deluxe class. The first time we had a deluxe class, which obviously has perpetuated to today. Some of the other classes have changed names, but deluxe class always seems to be, I suppose, deluxe
mhm.
Insecticons, but that's different. Anyway, so very quickly, we have Black Arachnia that I didn't know existed as a toy for many, many years. Again, they went with the G2 pattern of let's just do a load of repaints. in a single wave that have absolutely no differentiation between them except for the colors. So Black Arachnia and Tarantulas were obviously the same mold. Um, and that's fine. Black Arachnia, the toy, bared so little relation to her
Yeah.
cartoon counterpart. It was almost completely different characters. Buzzsaw and Waspinator, obviously exactly the same, although I completely forgot Buzzsaw even existed until I saw this picture. Cheetor and Tigatron, again, same in every single way, although in the show and in later iterations of the toy, Tigatron is massive compared to
Yeah.
Cheetor, just like how Cheetor is small compared to a tiger. Good old Dinobot, which is to this day a fantastic figure, even though his legs become gigantic boobs, and that's weird. Jetstorm, who? Oh, sorry. I've gone too far. How do I go back? I've ruined it. Previous, previous. There we go. Because a thing popped up.
Technical difficulties.
We'll cut that out. Jetstorm, who I never really played with, but he was cool. Wolfang is amazing because he fires missiles from his chest and is a dog. So that's nice. Rhinox is, I think, which I'll come to in a minute, but I think my absolute favorite of the line. He's just a big, chunky chunksome. He's got a Gatling gun that also has maces attached to it and a sword that his tail, and his face splits apart, and he's just awesome. Yeah, so that's the deluxe. We've waffled too much. Have you noticed?
As always.
Always.
It's going to be the risk with these coming ones, especially.
Most definitely.
Yeah, we're going to struggle.
Okay, let's just very quickly skip through the Mega Class. So we've got Polar Claw, who's a polar bear that turns into a robot that fires a bat out of his arm. We have Scorponok, who turns into a robot that fires a bee. He's got a bee in his hand because reasons. Both amazing figures. Again, they get a bit gimmicky at this point because,
Yep.
toys that transform into robots is not enough and never has been for Transformers, not since the very first line. There always has to be an additional gimmick. So Polar Claw not only fires a bat, he also has a claw that does that exactly once. And then you can never get it to quite ping back in the way that it did originally. Scorponok obviously has his bee, and he's got a missile launcher and a striking tail. Great figure. And then, of course, we'll quickly touch upon Megatron and Optimus Primal himself. Megatron is amazing. He's a really great T-Rex mode. Touches upon sort of the Jurassic Park aesthetic of being long ways, whereas well, how how T-Rexes would have been, rather than the Grimlock standing up Godzilla kind of almost fat T-Rex. He has missiles that fire out of his hips, and a water squirter in his mouth, because
always forget about the water squirter.
the only issue I have with that toy is the tail claw. It's like they spent so long designing him and making him this really, really cool figure, and then they're like, "What are we going to do with this? Oh, we'll just turn half his tail into a claw so he can go grabby, grabby." Which means he actually doesn't have a single real hand, which was a bit disappointing. That version. And then Optimus Prime himself, who turns into a gorilla. Now, downside to gorilla and robot is obviously there's not a huge difference between the alt mode and the robot mode. His face sort of does a thing, sort of turns around a bit. Yeah, that's it. His face becomes his chest. His shoulders flip up. You turn him round, and his feet are on the back of his feet. And that's it. But they make up for it by giving him missile launchers, a gun that pops out of his arm that's also a missile launcher, 2 swords, and a skull mace. I mean, what more could you want? Oh, and a mutant mask. For other reasons. And I think that was everything, wasn't it? Oh yes, sorry.
No, no,
And
they get
finally,
the Optimus, the weird ones.
yes, finally, inexplicably, Optimus Primal and Megatron were also a bat and a crocodile, alligator. Which I think I seem to remember them coming out as a two-pack was the first thing that came out. They came out like as a little preview
It was,
set.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Just
yeah,
that nothing. That not there was no tie-in for it. I think they did tie-in comics. I'm sure.
potentially they
IDW
might.
did a tie-in comic. I'm
Yeah,
sure they did. I think even Simon Furman wrote it. I think.
uh,
I don't
maybe
remember 100.
we'll,
percent
we'll 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 check on that. And then there was Onyx Primal, which is the Black Botgon exclusive. I assume as an Onyx Primal, that makes him sort of almost the first Nemesis Prime,
Oh, I never thought
maybe.
about all that. Yeah, because I was about to say, it's that classic bit of repaint a prime into black, but that
But
wasn't a
that
thing
wasn't
at
a classic,
this
no.
point. So
I
there
think
you go.
did Nucleon. What was the black ones? There might have been was it Nucleon Quest?
Mm,
Optimus Power Master Prime might have come out by this point, but I'm not sure.
that's your
Not
homework.
sure. Yeah, there we go.
You should know these things,
I
Mister Prime.
didn't know I should know these things, but I don't know many things, let alone everything. Right. Okay. Well, that's it for the toys. No robot mode pictures this week, but you can use your imagination or your research skills to research things. Just touching again on the Optimus Primal and Megatron, they were the basic class things. Did they have the automorph? I forget. I think they were just more basic
I've
than that.
never
They were
seen them in
just
hand. That
ah
never appealed to me.
no.
Because it was only this. It was the show bit that really appealed to me, and then I say I picked up all the basics because they were so cheap and they were like so
Yes,
much fun.
yes. Right, I'm gonna stop sharing because that's the last of my slides. Boop. Okay, so that's pretty much it for 1996. At this point, we've touched on the show, but at some point, I would like to come back and actually talk properly about the show and talk about
Agree.
some
I
of the
agree.
fine episodes. And we'll do various videos about toys and stuff that we like anyway. So, Moff, what was your bot of the year?
Do you know, I found this hard, and I'll be honest, the next few weeks are very difficult for me to try and pick a favourite bot from each year because there are so many. I literally have two on my desk because I still can't decide. So I'm going to be cheeky and I'm going to pick both and then I'll do a retro review because I was going to do pick one and do a retro review on both. I genuinely can't separate between. Let's say Insecticon had something about him that I was like, I need to own this toy.
Hmm.
I think he's so posable, so much fun, and his wee face. If it lets me bring up face, I don't know.
There you go.
He's this
Yay.
horrific
And
kind of
that is
face
quite
with a
awful.
brain showing at the top, and I just remember thinking that's amazing. But I think the best painted of the basics has to go to Pterosaur again. You know, his face detail. See when you look at it now and you look at the level of detail that's in his face and his eyes, it's just stunning. So I am going to do a retro review and I'm going to be cheeky and I'm going to do a retro review of the both of them because I couldn't separate between the two toys.
I
Both I absolutely love and have continually been kind of desk bots or some kind of form close by since I got them. And again, they have beautiful poses on them. So that's mine. And to think that, Optimus Primal's a great toy, Megatron's a great toy, but I genuinely could not pick them over these because I just think for the size, for the money, the fun value of them was outstanding. So that's my bot of the week when I pick two because I can't pick.
yeah, no, I actually find it really difficult to pick one. So not to be outdone, I'm gonna pick three. Because why not? I mean, Optimus
Why
Primal.
not?
I have to pick Optimus Primal because he's Optimus Prime and he's Optimus Primal, and he's just a fantastic figure. And he stands up so well even now. Such a awesome mold, such a great posable figure. Although he does, I forgot about one of his gimmicks, the spinny arm gimmick that he also has, where you pull the
Yes.
thing on
Oh
his
man.
back, which means you have to
I forgot
lock his
about
arms into place. Anyway, so him and Megatron, I love them both equally. But as I said earlier, I absolutely love Rhinox. I don't have a Rhinox
Correctly.
anymore, which is actually quite disappointing. I might have to pick one up. But I think we're going to do a retro review of Optimus Primal and Megatron, either as separate or together
I think that's great. And
this
I
week.
think, for our viewers and our listeners, expect additional content over the next 2 or 3 weeks as we go through Beast Wars. I genuinely, it is absolutely one of my highlights of all the series, of all the toys. I love it. So expect more from us. So no apologies needed, Simon, if you were the same to do too.
No, no, that's all good. Right, okay. We're gonna have to wrap this up because our free Zoom section is about to end. Haha. So goodbye. Have a wonderful time, and we will see you very soon for 1997. Goodbye from myself, and goodbye from the lovely Moff.
Goodbye, all.
See you soon. Like and subscribe.